Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Level Up Chronicles, where we dive deep into the dynamic world of content creation. I'm your host, Schmoogly, and this is the channel that brings you inspiring stories, valuable insights, and the vibrant journeys of creators just like you. Level Up Chronicles is a platform that creates exposure and celebrates creators who possess that undeniable spark and the passion to turn their dreams into a living reality. We understand that success is within reach for those who have what it takes, but often lack the exposure they need. So that is why I created this channel. I'm here to introduce you to a wide range of people: animators, storytellers, comedians, musicians, streamers, or influencers, bringing you their stories and showcasing their content. My goal is to provide a platform for those who may not have stumbled upon your unique talents otherwise. Grab a seat, get ready to be inspired, and join us on this remarkable journey. Today, I have with me Marco, aka Stallion.
Yo,
How's it going,
what's
brother?
good?
Long
Good man.
time,
How's it going? Thank you for having me here.
of
It's
course.
a pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so excited to have you. It's been a long time. We've been in talks for a while.
Mhm.
The hours are obviously different. It's 11 o'clock right
Yeah,
now in the U.S. for me, 5 o'clock for you in the U.K.
yeah,
So I'm glad we could finally get together and get this taken care of. So
yeah, man.
awesome.
Pleasure.
Glad to have you. So I always start with if you could introduce yourself, share a bit about your journey and who you are as a creator.
Yeah, man. Cool. So my name is Marco, also known as Stallion, which is my online alias. Stallion, or the name, was founded because, well, I love. It's actually a really stupid story, to be honest. I love horses, and I come from an Italian family. Both parents Italian. So growing up in school, I used to play a lot of football.
Yeah.
And because I was like quite short and really nippy, people would always call me the Italian Stallion.
Oh
That's probably
yeah.
from like the age of like 5. So it
Oh
just
my
kind of
god.
stuck, really. So Stallion kind of
Oh,
stuck with me my whole life. People knew me as it, and yeah, that's kind of where it began. I've been playing games since the age of 4 years old. 32 now. No, those years have passed very quickly. So I've been a gamer for around 28 years. I've been watching competitive gaming and esports since the days of sort of COD 4, Halo 2, Halo 3. So around 2006, 7 ish is where I started watching it with like game battles, MLG. And I used to watch Justin TV before it was what we know now as Twitch.
yeah.
And then in 2018, a friend of mine convinced me to start streaming, and I didn't really have the setup for it. Decided to do it. He helped me out with a lot of stuff. 6 months later, I quit my job and went full time. So that's the very TLDR of my life to hear. So
Oh.
yeah,
Man.
yeah,
Okay.
it's crazy, bro.
Holy cow. That's like a lot just jam packed into one. And
Yeah,
I'm
man.
sure looking at that now and you hearing that story, you're like, in your mind, you're like, wow, that's
Yeah.
crazy.
It
Uh,
feels like a different life. Like
Yeah.
pre and post COVID feels like I entered one realm and exited another. Like it's because I had such a not because I was full time before COVID, right? But because of COVID and lockdown, that pre life of lockdown feels like it was in another in like
Mm,
existence of me. Coming out of it, I was like a different person, not a different person, same person, but like you learn a lot. And
right.
yeah, just don't know, man. It just doesn't feel like it was in the same lifetime. It feels like it was 30 years ago now. It's crazy.
Which is wild because we just talked about that. I said I'm going to be 30 in April, and you said when you turn
Yeah.
30, like your life is like a new life. Like it's weird.
Let me tell you, bro, being in my 30s the best thing that I ever did. Like my 20s were good. Don't get me wrong. I partied a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
And kind of got myself settled. But since turning 30, I've got into my like soul relationship. I've bought a house. My career is going better than ever. I just feel like it's basically all the fun of your 20s, just with more stability because you've got, for the most part, your head on your shoulders. You know, that can't apply to everyone, but on the most part, like it's generally more stable. So you'll enjoy your 30s, man. I've been here for 2.5 years now, and I'm loving it. So
What did you do before full time? What was your career?
So I've got a bit of a broad background, we could
Mm,
say. I didn't really know what to do after, as you guys call it, high school. I
yep.
did sixth form, which is the equivalent of college in the UK, which is post high school, just before university. Um, going into university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I decided to study events management at uni. Just because it was a very people-facing role, I like to be in front of people. I like to speak to people. I like making people happy, basically. And events management is very much a you get the client all the things that they want, you bring them, you do their events, you make them happy, they go away. It's very, forward facing. So
Right.
I did events management at university, came out with a 2-1 bachelor's degree, which is like 60 to 70% a B grade, if you don't know what that is. And then coming out of that, like the problem with like events or like hospitality and retail in general, and I'm sure
Mm.
it's the same in the US, the hours are very long, the stress
Yeah.
is very high, and the money is very low. So it's one of those industries that has very high turnover of people because the stress is very high and the reward is very low. So as much as I liked it, I just kind of knew I could do more with my life. But I always wanted to get into the gaming industry, but I never really knew how to do it. And pre-university, I wanted to be a pro gamer. I wanted to compete
Mm.
in COD. And I used to do quite well on game battles. I went to a few LANs just to watch. But I had to sack all that to really study at university and put my head down and really focus.
Right.
And then coming out the other way, not long after that, I worked in field marketing sales for a little while. Got some good experience from that, and then started streaming the February the 4th, 2018. And literally 6 months after that, bro, gave it all up. Went to the journey, and yeah, I'm part time now, which I'm sure we'll speak about a little bit more. But I've
Yeah.
never looked back from the content world, and this is home now. So
Love it. Great
yeah,
journey. Great journey so
yeah,
far. So transitioning from a full-time streamer to what you do now as a
yeah,
lecturer, I'm
yeah.
sure that was a huge change when it
Yep.
comes to lifestyle. And I mean, you're part-time streaming, you're a lecturer, and you have a significant other. So I mean, balancing all that is pretty crazy. How do you manage that in your mind?
Yeah, so I like living on the wild side. So for me, if I'm just like sitting doing nothing, which is the biggest rarity for me, I kind of drive myself crazy. I'm convinced I have some form of ADHD or autism or something because my head just does not stop. Like last night, I'll give you an example. Me and my significant other, which I'll explain to you a little bit more about her soon. We're up until like 2 a.m. draft. I was drafting tweets. She was drafting TikTok ideas. Like this is the reality of the world that we live in, right?
Right.
But just to give you a bit of a backstory, the reason that I went away from full time, so I did full time for about 5 years,
Yep.
and the reason that I stepped back was because a lot of people don't talk about the stress of what full time actually is, and my income, let's say, or my kind of the weight on my shoulders was always fine because I lived at my mum's house, right? And it was just me and my mum, so she never got in the way of anything. And I must have lived there for about 4.5 years of when I was full time.
Mhm.
So I never had a mortgage, didn't really have overheads. It was one of those things. If I had a quote bad month, it is what it is. But when
Right.
you start adding a mortgage and you start having another person who lives in the house for you, and you start having that responsibility of like being in your 30s, right? You start to think, man, what about if I start really having bad months on Twitch? Like, who's going to pay the rent? Who's going to, well, not the rent, who's going to pay the mortgage? How am I
Right.
going to get by? And earlier this year, Call of Duty before Modern Warfare 3 wasn't in the place that anybody wanted it to be. And I had a really big reality check where I was like, why am I allowing my career to be dictated by the way a franchise goes? Why do I allow my entire life to be like, it's good if COD is good, or it's bad if COD is bad? And I'm just like, yeah, I appreciate everything that COD's done for me in my career, but like that's not how it should go. I
Mhm.
should have way more power in that. So I hit what a lot of creators probably don't talk about, a massive depression phase earlier this year, which is rare for me because I'm usually quite an upbeat, chirpy, really high energetic individual. But I crashed rock bottom. All my numbers were at rock bottom. Didn't want to make any content. Didn't really want to do much outside of just going live and playing games. And that must have gone on for a good 2 to 3 months. And I've never been like that in my entire life.
Mhm.
And to pull myself out of that was the hardest thing that I have ever had to do. And that must have spanned between June and late August, I would say. Coming into early September, feel free to interrupt me at any point. I'm just going to kind of like waffle on here just to give you
Yeah,
the
you're
last six
good.
months.
Yeah.
Coming into early September, I went back into personal training with my coach. Started doing things like calorie counting. I am currently very much in the way of transitioning, not away from COD content,
Mm.
but the stuff you're going to see that I do on TikTok and you're going to see that I'm going to be doing elsewhere. It's going to be much more open and varied, whether it's lifestyle, whether it's trends, whether it's just more fun stuff. That way, the brand is built around me, not just based on what's going on Call of Duty, right? So
Right.
that was a decision that I really had to like get in my head that that's what I wanted to do. And I know you asked me like, how do you manage it all? And it definitely is a lot easier when you've got a girlfriend who's invested. And she has a master's in marketing, right? So when you really think about it, master's in marketing, your boyfriend's a content creator, you know, there's a lot of overlap, right? And
Right.
her passions are brand building, content creation, and social media utilization.
That's
So it's
perfect.
like, you know, and we never got together knowing that this our careers were going to combine like this.
Right.
But she's always offered her assistance over the last couple of years. But I've always been like, yeah, do little bits here and there. But now she officially works for me part time. She does my content strategy. She markets and helps me market the Stallion brand. And I do the bits that I actually want to do. And going back off what you said with the financial stuff,
Mhm.
rather than just putting all of my essence on depending on my mortgage to be covered by my subscribers, which I appreciate every single person who's helped me over the last 5 years, it needs to be way more than that. And that's why I now have a part-time job in lecturing so that the bills are paid for before I even go live. I run a consultancy business where I help brands and creators get to where they want to be. So I make money an hour per that. I work with some brands on like a freelance basis, and I do like activations and sponsorships for different brands on the side that I don't really talk about that much. So, as well as being signed by Fnatic and a few other bits. So rather than just having one funneled income and depending on the community to get me by every day, I pulled myself back out of it, took a step back, reevaluated, took other jobs here and there, pulled my hours back on streaming, and I've gone from one income to about six. That
Yeah.
way, if one drops, I'll go pick up another one. If one drops here, I'll go pick up another one. Rather than it being like, hey, COD's doing bad now, it's over for me, you know? So I've gone back into how I started really, rather than just being a streamer, but being more of a businessman.
Right.
And I kind of lost myself for a little bit, but part of the journey, isn't it? So
Yeah. I mean,
that's
that's
a
a
very in-depth answer anyway.
no, that's great. That's what we're here for. I mean,
Yeah.
that's a huge thing to go through, and I think
Yeah.
it's weird that it's a time that we're talking about this cuz November is Men's Mental Health Awareness
Yeah.
month, and it's not talked a lot about
Yeah.
in men's mental health, and especially content creation in general. I mean, I've talked
Yeah.
about it before, just like people only see the end goal, the amount of subscribers, and they never see all the work that you put in
Yeah.
yourself. And I think it's great that you found a significant other to help you through that, as
Yeah.
well as like taking a step back, looking at yourself and being like, okay, I need to work on myself because otherwise I won't be here, right? So I mean, it's great. That's something that anyone that's listening, if you are trying to make content creation like your journey, the web that you need to have, like Stallion has, is something you need to work on because you are a brand yourself. You're not just a streamer, you're not just a content creator. And it's great to have a niche to start out with, kind of like you had, and now you're branching off into other things. And that's exactly like super, super important. I think another important thing in this whole journey is like building genuine connections.
Yeah.
We talked about this a little bit before recording. Like building genuine connections in this space is hard, especially when you're starting to gain traction.
Yeah.
And what approaches or methods would you say is effective in networking authentically with
Mm.
brands or creators? Like me and you, we connected super
Yeah.
authentically off Twitter. I took the chance, I DM'd you and we started talking, and that's probably the most authentic thing you can do. I think when people think networking, it's sharing your links and that's it. So, what's a
Yeah.
good advice you have for people that just are doing it the wrong way?
No, I think you've basically just answered it really bang on.
Awesome.
Like it's like there's usually networking happens naturally where there's a mutual interest about something, right? Where you're like, hey, I really like your content that you're doing. I have a question about this, or I'd love to get you on for a podcast about this, or would you like to play together sometime? You, as humans or decent humans anyway, you usually start a conversation. At least when I like to, if I'm going to reach out to someone, is compliment them first, right? Be
Yeah.
like, hey, I've been looking at your content. I really like what you're doing, or you're really inspirational. You know, would you consider maybe partnering up for some games, or like, you know, like we are right now, right, coming on a podcast?
Yep.
And even if the answer is necessarily no, you know that for yourself that you've come across the right way, right? I think that word networking just gets dragged through the mud. I think it's like
100%.
there has to be some sort of gain on both sides, which obviously on a business front there can be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like people see networking as this crazy chore where it's like it should just happen naturally and progressively, and like if it's anything but that, it's just forced and fake.
Right.
So like for me, for example, I have like a what I class as like an inner circle, right, of people that I have that have been through everything with me, that stuck with me through the downs, through the ups, my OGs, all that. But then I get along with everyone. Like, don't get me wrong. Like
Hmm.
I have no reason to never not speak to anybody for any reason. Follow account, clout, all that rubbish, chuck all that out the window. End
Yep.
of the day, I'm here to make real connections, to talk to real people. So like that's something that I've always really embedded in myself. And like people are like, oh, even on like TikTok, for example, because it's like my biggest platform. It's like, oh, I can't believe you're speaking to me because I'm verified. And it's just like that mindset is what's wrong with the world.
Right.
It's just like, so it's like, what? It's because I have a tick. How does that define me? It's literally pixels on a screen. And it's
Right.
like, if you, I even say to people, it's like, if people treat you differently because they have a tick and you don't, I was like, they're the people that you just want to get away from, man, because they are what I like to call poison. So, like, I usually find myself getting along with people who are either on my wavelength level wise, or like people that are like new and fresh starting out. Because I usually find if I speak to creators bigger than me, not always, don't get me wrong, but there's been instances they
Hmm.
just give me the cold shoulder. I'm like, oh, do you know what? I ain't got time for this.
Right.
And then for whatever reason, if they try and reach out after, I'm like, I ain't giving you the time, man.
Yeah.
If you're gonna just look at me as a number when we first meet, that's it. It's done. It's buried. So like, yeah. For me, the network is connection. Look at me as a person, not for the numbers, but on the brand behind me. Like, and then if it comes to business, like if you're reaching out to a brand or if you're talking to brands, you just got to be yourself.
Right.
Um, Obviously this is a whole different conversation, but like knowing the difference between affiliations to a partnership, sponsorship, I think a lot of streamers fall into that. They're so desperate to work with a quote dream brand that they'll allow their brand to be dragged through the mud on an affiliation, which is not a partnership, something very different. And you being given a 5 or 10% code off does not mean in any way that you are partnered with a brand. So you have to know your worth, and regardless of view account and all that, I always say, I've got a famous saying, we all come out into the world the same way and we all leave it the same way. So if you judge anyone any differently, then as far as I'm concerned, you're already past my wanting to be a friendship. Like, I'm not even gonna work. I ain't even gonna give it the effort. Like,
Yeah.
go
Yeah. Not
away.
worth it at that point.
Go
Yeah.
away. I don't care how many
Right.
followers you've got. Get out of my like sphere. And that's
Right.
why when people come to my community or for the first time, they're like, you guys are crazy. It's like there's so much love here. It's just because the fakes don't stick around because you're not going to get anything out of us. End of the
Right.
day, we have what we've built is from loyalty and from a family, and we're all there for the same reason. And as long as you stick to your guns, like that's just the way it's going to be. So
Yeah, that's amazing, and I'm glad you brought
yeah,
that up with partnerships and affiliations too, because that is a huge
yeah,
misconception in the
yeah,
whole scene. I mean,
yeah.
the I'm not going to name any brands, but stuff that you see all the time of just DMs and hey, you
Yeah,
get this code, and that's it, and you get nothing in return. Like the sponsorships that I have, the partnerships that I have are actual, like, I'm giving you something, you're giving me
yeah,
something. Like
yeah,
it's an exchange, and I think that is huge when people are starting out, and I'm sure that's something that you're probably teaching
yeah.
in your courses of you need to be weary of these type of people, you need to be
Hmm.
weary of these type of brands, and you need
Absolutely.
to have the value of yourself. And if you don't believe in yourself and you don't present yourself correctly on social media, then you're not going to have a brand. I think that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand is like what brands look at, and they're always looking no matter what. Like
Yep.
even these big brands, like you don't know, they could be watching you or looking at you or going through your Twitter, and
Yep.
if you're posting something you shouldn't be posting, they're done. That's it. Like you've
I
shown
think you I
yourself
think you
wrongly.
come up on a really good point with that as well. A lot of people will often opt to go with the fast and quick. I don't care if I say bad things as long as I get to where I want to be clout wise versus
Yep.
the slow and steady, be yourself, be the main person who you are rather than trying to sell yourself out or be so desperate to get to let's say the quote clout level where you want to be.
Right.
And like, there's a reason that 6 years later I'm still here, and 95% of the people I start with are not here anymore. Not to say that they're bad people in any way, but that's because I've always stuck to my guns and who I am and what I do. So a lot of people, I mean, a lot of people opt to go for the quick to the top route,
Yep.
selling themselves out or doing things that they shouldn't be doing to try and just get themselves over other people. But then you find you just could tarnish your name, put your name through the mud, and it's gone as quick as it came. So
Right.
slow and steady, built thoroughly and properly. 10 years later, and you're still there and you're winning. I'd rather have that any day.
Yeah, and I think that hits a lot of people when they do it that way, when they do it super
Yep.
quickly, the mental health hits them at the peak of their performance, and then
Yep.
they just that's the end for them because they're super burnt out. And I think that's another thing that people need to realize like the burnout is
Yeah.
real, and like you took a step back, you came back 10 times better, and that's awesome. I think
Yeah.
before doing your transition to lecturing and part-time, you did get on with Fnatic
Mhm.
through your creation. Can you tell me a little bit about that journey and how that kind of partnership came to be?
Yeah, I mean, it's a cracking story to be honest. For those who don't know, Fnatic are the number one like UK org, the biggest team in the country, which is massive for my CV, of course. So to even have been in the conversation with them was an honor for me.
Mhm.
And I'm obviously here as a content creator. So the actual journey dates back all the way to 2022 February, where I was playing Fortnite one day, and one of their recruitment managers found my stream, came in. He said he loved my energy and everything that we were doing. We were playing Fortnite at the time, funnily enough. Um, and it was really funny because he said to me, "Oh, I'm a talent manager for Fnatic," and I was like, "I've never seen you before. You've just got some random
Right.
name on Twitter." I was like, "No, you ain't." I was
Yeah.
just joking. I was like, you ain't with Fnatic. You're chatting wow." So then I still remember it, man. I still remember after that stream going, I wonder if this person actually is part of Fnatic. I went to Twitter, I typed his name, and it was like talent manager at Fnatic, and man, my face
Yeah.
was like, no. I was like, I've bottled it. I've bottled it. I was like, I
Yeah.
didn't even know. So straight away, I'm like messaging him. I'm like, hey man, really appreciate that you took the time to come out to my stream today. Hope you enjoyed yourself. Thankfully, I didn't say nothing bad.
Right, right.
And he was just like, look, man, we love your energy. We love what you're doing. I will be back in touch with you in a couple of weeks about some stuff. I was like, cool. So I have talent managers by the name of Carter Pulse. I don't know if you've ever heard of them or anyone's ever heard of them. They are like a talent agency. They manage my contracts and they basically make sure that I get what I should get in deals. Let's say, long story short.
Yep.
And obviously, I told them about the opportunity. And when Fnatic originally came to me, and I'm sure they won't mind me saying this now, the original idea was for them to make like a YouTube show down in London, and it was going to be me and three other UK-based creators. So there's going to be four of us, and we were going to get involved in like a whole new podcast. It never ended up happening, unfortunately. And the deal almost fizzed out. But it
Dang.
was like I was talking to the marketing manager, and he was talking to me, and then we just kind of sat in a Discord call, and we were like, "I really like working with you," and I was like, well, "I really like working with you guys." And we're like, "Let's see if we can still make this work."
There
And
you go.
then next thing you know, I think it must have been God. It wasn't until November that year, bro. It must have been at least 7 months of talks. Like,
Wow.
this is what the reality of talking to tier one teams are, man. It is
Right.
a long haul because it's what they say, who then has to get scaled up, to get scaled up, to get scaled up, and then it scales all the way back down. And then it comes to a conversation, and it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna get that scaled up now, rinse and repeat until everything was answered. And then finally in November 2022, so literally this time last year, it was about this time last year
Wow.
actually.
November. Yeah.
Yeah, my talent managers came to me and went, they were like, Marco, Fnatic want to sign. I was like, oh my god! I just remember losing my mind. I was like, I'm about to become Fnatic Stallion. I was like, which still doesn't sound right today because that is
Right.
just bonkers.
Yeah.
They are like the team I grew up watching, or one of the teams I grew up watching. So to even like be here is incredible. And I mean, them as a team like speaks volumes to me because a lot of tier one teams are usually seen as the kind of like throwaway approach where it's like,
Mm.
yeah, we'll have you, we'll use you, and then we'll get rid of you. But they have
Right.
been incredible, man. Like I went from COD this year to Fortnite to IRL to a burnout to part-time streaming to what I'm doing now. And not once have they gone, we don't like this or we don't believe in it. I've changed platforms, gone
Yeah.
back, done all sorts of stuff, and not once have they gone or said anything outside of we have your full support, which is why I am Fnatic till I die now, as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
I've been looked after. I'm appreciated here. I have incredible conversation with the relationship manager. And we'll call this, I don't know, if is it the Schmoogly podcast, Movement podcast? What's the
Uh,
podcast called? Sorry.
level up Chronicles. Yeah.
The
Luck.
level up. Okay, here's a exclusive for the Level Up Chronicle. 2024. My relationship with Fnatic is about to get even crazier.
You heard
No
it
one
here
knows.
first, folks.
You heard it. No one knows anything about
Oh
this.
man.
There's something crazy in the pipeline at the moment, which was all forged by the relationship that I have with them now. And yeah, I have no intentions of going anywhere else anytime soon. So
Insane.
yeah.
That's a huge accomplishment. Like pretty not early on in your career, but early on like
Mm,
in your whole journey. Like
yeah.
that's something that like when you start that your mind is like kind of focused on, I would say, a lot
Yeah.
of creators. Like when they
Oh
start, they're
yeah.
like, I want to be a part of a team, I want to sign with
Yeah.
brands, I want to have a deal. Like otherwise you like we do this because we love it, and
Yeah.
eventually that's the end goal, and not everyone gets there. So it's great on you. Like that's
Appreciate it, bro.
insane. I'm super happy and proud. That's it. That's an insane accomplishment.
Thanks,
And I
man.
absolutely. And I think that's one thing in this scene that's also kind of hard to navigate, right? Because there's teams everywhere. And
Yeah.
some teams are, like you said, tier one teams, and some teams are not. And that's another thing I think when we're talking about content creation and the journey that you need to watch out for. Teams will just,
Yeah.
like you said, use you and dump you. And so it's great that you stuck to yourself as a creator and someone actually noticed you instead of you saying, I'm grinding for this team. I'm
Yeah.
grinding for this team. And you see that all over social media and all over this. Like, here's our recruitment challenge. Like, don't get me wrong, recruitment challenges are great for you to get your brand out there, but don't make that be
Yeah.
your full, circled around this brand that's never gonna give you
It's
the
funny you
time of
say
day.
about recruitment challenges because I had one of my biggest breaks on phase five.
Awesome. Yeah.
Just as lockdown happened, really. Phase five started just before lockdown, and then kind of went through lockdown, and we managed to make it into the top 100, which absolutely is
Huge.
is bonkers.
Yep.
With considering there was like tens of thousands of applicants. But I also learned a lot about myself in that process, where it was like it was great for my brand,
Yep.
but like not to like slate phase or anything, but I kind of felt just like a number part of a system, which obviously is what it is. But
Mm-hmm.
like coming out of it now and look at it now, like if I wasn't with Fnatic, would I do phase five again? Probably not.
Yeah.
And joining a team like phase is like an amazing opportunity, but I would rather get there with my content than do it through something potentially where I have no control over the situation of what's going on. I mean, there's
Right.
people that have different takes with it. That's just from my experience. But what I would say, based on what you said, there are literally probably millions of teams out there now. Everybody wants to make an org, wants to be an org. It's exactly the same premises as what I said with sponsorships and partnerships. Don't undervalue yourself to put a name in front of your name. It's not worth it. Focus on yourself. When the right team comes, if you're really making good content and you're really making it, that contract's going to come, and I guarantee you won't even have to look for it, like it did to me. So,
Yeah.
you know,
Absolutely.
but you can
Yeah.
also go proactive if you want. If you're really passionate about wanting to be in a team, just make sure you're joining for all the right reasons, because that's really important. Like, don't join a team that ends up having a corrupt CEO, because Lord Almighty, you're gonna get dragged. Your name gets dragged through the mud, and I'm sure you're from your face, bro. We've
Hmm.
over our years, we've seen a few of those, right? So,
Yeah. I mean, it's the whole guilty by association thing. Like if
yeah,
you're associated, you're
yeah,
associated. Like there's no way about it. And sure,
yeah,
there's ways you can go around it, but like that's what you have to be weary of. And I mean,
yeah,
I'll just talk on my experience for a little bit going through um like the respawn recruits challenge. I mean,
yeah,
that's something that is super great now that I'm partnered with them. Like they really care about me as a creator. Like you said, Fnatic really cares about you as a creator, and whatever you do, they support you 100%. And unless it's racist, homophobic, all the stuff
oh
we
yeah, 100%,
shouldn't ever
yeah,
do.
yeah,
But like that's something I think that was great for my content and myself going through that 10 weeks of 400 creators and making it to top 10 and being partnered. And now it's like, and before then I'm on a team name loading, and we started through a prior org that we all knew each other from, that we were grinding for, so to say. And they didn't give us the time of day, so we're like, you know what, let's ourselves, we all think we're great creators, sure we might not have the huge numbers, let's make this something because we think we can do it better. And
yeah.
that's kind of where it's came. And like we are trying to keep it as most genuine and most like non-numbers type of deal, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
um
And well
and
done to you as well, bro. I know you gave me a round of applause, but well done to you for doing that. It's no easy feat. So good
awesome,
job.
yeah, appreciate that, thank you so much. Let's so University of Northampton,
Yeah.
that's that's a huge that that was more recent, I think.
It
That's
was, yeah.
your most recent thing. And when I saw that on Twitter, I was like, amazing, Stallion. Like that's super great for you to be giving your knowledge. I don't want to say for free, but like these kids are, paying for college, but your knowledge
Yeah,
is
yeah.
is like
It's a part-time
unending,
job, basically.
like
Yeah.
it's a part-time job. But like I'm
Yeah.
sure now that you've been teaching these kids, you want to see them succeed so badly. And I'm sure you have their
Yeah.
numbers, or I'm sure you have their Discord and you're talking with them and you're giving them advice. And how did Northampton come about, and how are you feeling about Northampton? Like it's kind of like a great feeling to be sharing something and not, bottling it all up. So
Yeah, I mean, the very long story. I've always been not like making educational content, but I'm not really a creator who holds back on my success story. I like to try and help people get to where they want to be. End of the
right.
day, we're all trying to get somewhere, right? Um, so that kind of like founded everything that I've always done, like sharing information, telling people, this is how I did it, this is what I did, trying to help other people in their journeys. And it's funny actually with Northampton because I'm from Northamptonshire, the county that I live in. So it's my quote local
Awesome.
university, which is obviously really convenient. And it's funny enough, it's actually through my girlfriend
Oh,
who
sweet.
works part time for me. Before she worked part time for me, which obviously she's still doing the other job now, she works in marketing at Northampton. So
Ah,
she said to me, when was it? God, I think it was the very start of last year, or probably around the same time I started talking to Fnatic. She said to me, "Do you know that Northampton is doing an esports course now?" I was like, "No, tell me more." She was like, "Well,
right.
they're only like a year and a half in. Like it's in the UK, esports has only been in universities for about 3 years, so it's super new. As
Wow.
you know,
Okay.
our industry in education is extremely new, right? There's not
100%.
much, there's not really much there. Um, Stuff like game design, game programming, that's been around for a while, but esports is
Yeah.
very new, which looks at the whole globe of what we do. So I was like, really? I was like, that's cool. And then me being me, some creators might look at that, or people might look at that and go, okay, that's pretty cool. No worries.
Right.
Me, I was like, I'm gonna write an email. I'm gonna see what's going on. Let's see there's something that can happen here. And I joke you not, I wrote them an email saying, hey guys, I live in so and so. I'm like half an hour away from the university. Here's my following. Here's my meet. And I wrote it in a professional way, like
Love
you
it.
would to a brand
Yep.
or to a partnership. I gave them my media kit, my link tree. I made it easy for them. Obviously complimented the university, what it does, what it's about, and obviously said that I'm local. And I
Mhm.
joke you not, within 2 hours of that email going out, the head of sports science, who looks at esports as well, came
Mhm.
back to me and went, "We want to bring you in for some associate lecturing." And for those in here who don't know what associate lecturing is, it's basically you're not part time, but you're like brought in to bring your expertise. You're like a guest,
Mm.
right?
Yeah.
And one of the modules they do, funnily enough, is streaming and casting. So
Wow.
uh,
Crazy how that
it's the
works.
one of the second year modules. So the lady who's the program leader, Lucy, who I work very closely with now, she was like, "I'd love to bring you in to share your experience in the streaming world." And I did that. I think I delivered about 5 or 6 sessions as an associate. Did a little bit of marking and really got to meet the students and gelled. And obviously esports, right? We're all gamers, which is great. We all talk the same lingo. It was really cool. And then it kind of just like not like fizzled out, but it was like we had a really good year. We'll see what happens next year.
Mm.
And then the guy who originally reached out to me was like, "Look, Stallion, we have a full time position coming up here,
Wow.
starting this September, aka 2 months ago." And I was like, "Look, my
Wow.
life is crazy." I was like, "I ain't doing full time. I'm already full time streaming." Literally a month and a half later is where I had my massive breakdown and kind of like took a big step back from stuff. And I was thinking, I was like, in my head, I was like, man, I need to find another role that I can
Mhm.
get myself into while I'm building other positions and my business further, where I can make it so I can live here. And I want to make it so that it fits my brand, it fits the gaming world. And I know I mentioned to you about some consultancy and mentoring that it can
Yeah.
help and improve that. And I was like, wait a second. I was like, he offered me a full time position. And I said to him, I was like, look, I'll be honest, I can't do it full time. I don't want to quit streaming altogether. I know I've not had a great time recently. But he was like, look, just apply. Let's see what happens. And we'll go from there. And I applied. I got in for an interview. Absolutely crushed that interview, bro. I went in, I think it was 11 a.m.
Awesome.
And then at the end, when they say, have you got any questions? I said, look, the most I can very do is like a point 0.5, right? I can only do like 18 hours a week. I can't do any
Right.
more than that. And even that's a push. And they went, go away and we'll see what happens. And by
Mhm.
4 o'clock the same day, when I was at a festival, pretty drunk at the time actually, he rang me up and was like, "We want to offer you the position." And I was just like, "This is crazy." So for me at the time, and still now, even though my businesses is all going really, really well, for me to ever go back as a full time content creator would be a different version of what it was. So I would
Mhm.
go back into full time content but I would have several other businesses going on. Now, I would never, ever, ever do what I did before
Yeah.
because man, when things go wrong, it's the worst thing in the world, particularly now that I've got to pay all this stuff, right?
Right.
So it was like a godsend, bro. You couldn't make it up. That position, that role, how it started from me associate lecturing the year before, and how he offered me the role, and just everything at the time that it came. That what is even the chances, right?
Yeah.
And now I think I've been there, what, 2.5 months part
Mhm.
time? And
Yep.
I'm getting on my CV that I am teaching esports at academic level, which is going to be for someone who's going to do consulting, mentoring, and another one for the podcast first. Next year, online tutorials. That stays between us.
Yeah, of course.
I'm going to make my knowledge more widely available, something that I'm currently looking at right now. This credibility is nuts
Amazing.
because
Yeah.
nobody can say anything, bro. I teach at academic. I can teach at the highest level in our field, as well as doing this for full time for 5 years. So very slowly, in my crazy ADHD business mind, I am puzzling all of these pieces together. That maybe in 2 years' time, I go, look at me now. Look at where I am
Right.
now. I can go in any avenue that I want because I have all the circles tied together. And I very much look at the bigger picture. So it was definitely a godsend. And yeah, the opportunity couldn't have been better, man. Like, it's on my doorstep, it's in our field, it relates to what I do, and kind of a surreal moment, like turning up and half the class know who I am already because
Yeah.
loads of them play COD and they
Right.
used to watch me during lockdown, which is bonkers.
I'm getting
Yeah, it
chills
was,
just hearing that. Like,
bro,
that's
it's
insane.
crazy. Like one of my
Full circle.
guys was like, one of the reasons that I took the course is because I knew you were going to be teaching one of the modules. I was like, it doesn't get much better than that, man. It's crazy. So
And just hearing that, like, that's what I'm sure that's what you've aspired to do, is be an
yeah,
inspiration for everyone, and just hearing them being like, I've watched you during lockdown. Like, that's crazy to me. You were in your house during
yeah,
lockdown looking at a
yeah.
computer and gaming and making content, and there were people all across the world sitting there watching you, and now
Yeah.
you are teaching them physically in real life in a classroom, and teaching them like you can do this too if you actually like put your mind to it. Like, that's a full circle, and that's insane just to even hear it. And I'm sure you just reiterating it like in your
Yeah.
mind, you're like, holy shit, this is
Oh, it's crazy.
this is
But I also
crazy.
think that people have this set way of what being a full-time creator is. And it's like, again, this year was a big reality check for me. And it was like, no, it's not. Actually, I'll go in whatever avenue that I want. I don't need to be doing 90 hours a week on stream to be a quote full-time creator. I mean, I'm
Yeah.
technically still a full-time creator now. I'm just branching off into other avenues.
Right.
And like I'm trying to pioneer and lead the way for UK esports now. Like
Hmm.
I'm practicing what I preach, basically. And when you look at in our field and you see what other streamers have gone on to be lecturers, right? That's what I'm saying. I'm
Yeah.
trying to level
Right.
myself to a point of where it's like, hey, good luck matching this because I'm gonna just keep going from step to step. So to anyone who's watching this and aspiring to be a full-time streamer or a full-time creator, that can mean whatever you want it to mean. That doesn't mean you
Hmm.
got to stream a certain amount of hours or create a certain amount of content. Use content and stream to get yourself in the door, and then just go and go and go and go. And I think you
Right.
said it perfectly, man. It starts off with a niche, and then what started off as a small Stallion brand in the COD world is now going to be what I want to be one day, Stallion worldwide. So that's what I'm looking to build every day. So
Insane. Yeah.
yeah,
I think the mainstream media is a huge thing to talk about too when it comes to this whole
yeah,
world, because I mean, just the people, just the creators that I watch and I looked up to and I see all over Twitter, them like talking about their real life and trying to explain it to the people in their real life. It's
yeah,
hard to get that across to the older, I know we're old, but the older generation more more than us. Like,
yeah.
how did your parents or your friends around you take your content creation journey? Did they understand it? Now that you're becoming a lecturer and you got all this other stuff going on, are they seeing the potential in the full time of like, wow, this actually is something that you're making, and it's not just like, oh, you're wasting your time on
Hmm.
a online.
Yeah, so basically in my house, it was basically always me and mum. My
Hmm.
my father passed away from a young age, so growing up, mum was
Sorry.
very much my mum and dad for me, my brother, and my sister.
Yep.
In terms of the world of gaming, it was no shock to her because I've been gaming my whole life, right? I've she knows how much I love this field, in whatever way I wanted to do it. And I always used to say to her when I was a kid, I was like, one day I'm gonna make it in gaming. I was like, oh, how am I gonna do it? But I'm gonna make it. Um, And then when I still remember, like when I quit my full-time job in 2018, and she was like, "This is really working out for you, isn't it?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah." She said, "Look, listen, you go out there and you live your life the way you want to live it. As long as financially you are set and you know what you're doing, and you just stick to being who you are, well, why would it phase her?" And that's exactly, when one day, I know you said we're old, right? One day,
Yeah.
if I'm going to be a father,
Right.
whatever my child wants to do, as long as they're morally and ethically, they stick to their roots and what they were taught when they were growing up. I don't care what they could do when they're older, man. As long as they obviously they're not hurting anyone. Like if
Yeah.
they want to be a streamer, if they want to be a dancer, if they want to be a gamer, if they whatever, man, I will support that because I've lived it. I've lived, well, currently living it. Taking what started for me as a hobby to be a passion. And
Right.
then some people take a bit more convincing. They don't care until they realize, wow, that's a nice car you're driving. What do you do for work? And then you tell them like, wow, you're earning that from that. It's like, yeah, I am. Thank you for acknowledging me now that you've
Yeah.
seen this rather than where I started. Where were you then?
Right.
And
Right.
it's like people are like, oh, it's not going to be nothing, or people want to doubt you, or they just be like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. And then
Mhm.
they get the quick reality check. They're like, hell, I'm not here to mess around, man. I'm here
Yeah.
to make myself into something. Like the way that I have watched my life develop over the last kind of like 20 years, and from the depression earlier this year to where I'm at now, like I just know it. I can feel it in my soul, bro, that the Lord has big plans for me, and I ain't gonna let him down, man. I'm a
Yeah.
work and work and work until I get to where I need to be. So I've got all the support I need from my family. Obviously, my girlfriend, she adores what I do. She's part of it. We were down in a supermarket car park earlier filming our new style of TikTok videos that we're doing because we're going down the lifestyle route, which is
Yep.
way more viral on trend rather than just doing COD news videos, right? So
Yeah.
if you don't mind me plugging, check out
Of
TikTok
course.
Stallion this week. There's some funny content to come, man. And this has always been a field that I've been really wanting to go into, but because I've always done things on my own, and I'm sure you know exactly how this feels. When you work on your own, it's so easy to get in your head, or when
Mhm.
you get in this like protective bubble of what you know works, you just stick to it, right? But having her with me and having somebody who I can reflect with and talk to, when I was like, look, I really just want to do this. And she was like, let's turn it into a strategy. Let's actually do it. And I'm like, yes, let's. Um, and having somebody who actually has the time to do it, because I physically don't have the time to do it, is fantastic.
Yeah.
So in terms of support, my IRL friends, we all game together. They all get it. Um, my online friends obviously all got it. Family, girlfriend, couldn't ask for a more supportive group of people around me, man. So, but I
Love
know
it.
not everybody gets that,
Yeah.
and it's hard, man, because some people really do well for themselves, and their family just don't want to accept it, and it's like I feel that's a real shame because if you're doing something you really enjoy and you're not hurting anyone and your morals are in the right places, like this industry, like the sky's the limit. The amount that you
Right.
can earn, the amount that you can do, like look at what the top guys are making. It's like
Crazy.
I would push my children if this is the avenue they wanted to go. I'd be like, I'd kick their ass. I'd be like, if you ain't doing this many hours, I'd be like,
Yeah.
good luck, mate. All I'm gonna say, bro, is good luck to the children that I have because I'm like
Yeah.
a drill sergeant, bro. I'm like, and that's how I teach my students. I'm like, let's get you motivated. Let's get you to where you want
Right.
to be. If you're gonna pay £9,500 to come to my class every day, you sit and you listen. You don't listen. Get out now.
Yeah.
And that's the level of strictness I operate at because it's like
That's
I'm not
good.
here to
Yeah.
waste time. I'm
Right.
here to teach people how to be successful.
Yeah.
Um,
And you're
so
and you're giving your value, and like they're
yeah,
there for
man.
the value, and if they're not going to take it, then like
Yep.
someone
What
else
more can
someone
you
else
do?
could have that spot in that
Yeah.
class that really wants it. So
Amen.
awesome. Yeah, I think the supportive significant other is great. Like my wife
Yeah.
is super supportive of this. Like I work full time in healthcare, but like I do this as a hobby and part time, and eventually
Yep.
would love to go full time. And she's like, yeah, if it's still supporting and paying our mortgage and paying our bills and our child daycare, like that's what matters, you
W
know?
wife. That's what you want to hear,
Yeah,
right?
W wife. And
Yeah, man.
I think that's something that like my mind is focused on. Like I
Yeah.
can't do this until I know that I can take care of them first. Like that's like now that you have your girlfriend, you're like, look, I'm taking care of her too as well.
Yeah.
Like it's just it's just a thing, right? So
Very, very much be careful, man. If you, like I said, if you ever want to go full time, before you ever commit to that, just make sure
yeah,
you've got two, three, four, if you can, 4+ avenues of income. Because
right.
putting all of that on content, like it's great when it's great, but man, when it goes wrong, where do you go? Where do you turn? Because that's
Hmm.
where it's all coming from, right? So I needed to get out of that. So now
Yeah,
anything I make from streaming is all just whatever. It's fun. And you want to know
Right.
what's even crazier? Since I've gone part-time, my
Mhm.
sub count on Twitch and my viewer numbers have doubled to what I
Yeah.
did part-time.
Yeah.
Because one, I'm not there all day, every day. Two, my attitude has changed ridiculously. I went through a little bit of a phase of feeling like I was entitled, and it happens to all of us. And when I saw my numbers dropping and dropping and dropping, I took that really personally.
Yep.
And whilst there's a cost of living crisis, and that's where I really wrapped it into my own head. And I'm just like, bro, I'm literally living off other people's support.
Mhm.
Get it together, Stallion.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so that's where I really learned. And then now, bro, like this is just mad. Everything's going mad. Like, and there's not really much to say about it. Like, apart from just 2024 is just going to be nuts. From what
Good.
we're planning, it's going
That's
to be nuts.
exciting. That's exciting.
Yeah,
And
man.
that's real soon in 2024. I mean, I
Yeah.
agree. I feel in my body and soul that that's a huge year for me, and
Yeah.
I'm manifesting it. Like the belief in yourself is what you need
Yep.
to succeed, and I'm glad that you've believed in yourself since Stallion day one,
Yep.
and now Stallion year 10 is looking at
Yep.
himself from day one, being like, "Holy shit, I'm doing it!" Like, and you're not
Yeah.
done. You're still going.
I have a very big problem with accepting success in whatever you class success. I am never
Hmm.
satisfied.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a good driver, right? For real,
Right.
you know real successful people because they're never satisfied.
Yep.
Um, so people might say, "Oh, you know, you've made it. Like you've got what more do you need? I've got a car, good
No,
house, good
keep going.
girlfriend. You make good money. What more do you need?" It's like, nah, I ain't even close to where I want to be right now. So that drive is just what does it every day. Like my day is planned from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep. I know what I'm doing every single minute of the day, and that's how you really make the most out of every single day.
Love that. That with so with your unique position,
Mm,
like at the intersection of gaming and
mm.
education and streaming, the future, like give me a 5-year future of what you think esports and content. I know, right? Huge question of what you think the future of evolving. Like we will see more mainstream media with esports. We will see more like give me your thoughts on what you think.
Our field is gonna go mad in the next couple of years, and one of those big parts to that is multi-streaming.
Yeah.
Multi-streaming has opened the floodgates for a lot of people, including me, where I never have wanted to transition away from Twitch fully because that's where my base has always been. Um, and now they've opened the floodgates to that. It's changed everything. Um, Not only that, the stuff that I'm doing with Creator, the stuff that I'm doing as a consultant, I wasn't even doing any consultancy 6 months ago.
Right.
How our field is changing in terms of technology, what content looks like, the involvement of sponsors, mainstream media, the importance of micro influencers versus macro influencers, which is one of the reasons why I work with Creator because me and Paul, the guy from Creator, are basically sick and tired of brands only working with people over a certain CCV when
Mm.
we know that people with like 3, 5 times less viewership have twice the pushing power because of
Yeah.
how hardcore communities are. So we understand our industry a lot better than what a lot of these Titan agencies think that they do. Um, so man, the next 5 years, God knows, like there are streaming platforms popping up now faster than we've ever seen it, man. Like uh, we've got in fact, this is actually really some good time to have this conversation
It
because in
is.
2 days, I am going to be part of an onboarding of a brand new streaming platform that nobody knows about yet, unless you're part of the onboarding. So
Wow.
I'll be making an announcement either tomorrow or Tuesday. But there's a brand new platform coming and looking to change the way that things are done. Another platform I've been recently speaking to is LiveSpace, and they allow you to go live through the browser. You don't even have to use OBS anymore, and it's like changing the way the
Yeah.
system works. And I think now with things like multi-streaming and Twitch going loose, and they'll go looser and looser on that now because they have to, or else they'll
Yeah.
just get left behind. The market is going to saturate like crazy, and the big streamers are going to be dotted on different platforms, and everything's going to change. Like you may be a 50 live viewer on this platform now. You move to another platform that may appear in like 2 years, and you will be the number one streamer there. Like we're going to see that more often. I guarantee it because it's not just going to be either Twitch. Who's it been the last few years? Twitch, YouTube, and a little bit of TikTok. Right, that's it. We've
Right.
not had nothing. Now we
Right. Yeah.
have now we have Kick. We have Lifespace. I stream to Trovo. We have this new one that's coming up on Tuesday, and I'm sure there's a lot more currently in the works now. You know
Yeah.
that are all coming out thick and fast.
Right.
So Man, 5 years, God knows.
It's gonna
But
be
it's exciting.
it's
That's all I'm gonna
exciting.
say.
Exactly.
Yeah,
No, it's
yeah.
exciting. It's gonna be huge. Speaking of creator, that's funny. I was the first one in y'all's Discord in
Oh
creator.
right, which one? Oh, what creator
In
Discord?
creator, I was the
Nice,
first
man.
one
Love
in
that.
there. I've been in talks with them. That's awesome too.
Love
So
that.
love
All I'm gonna
creator.
say is, if you guys have got a lot of love for Stallion creator, keep an eye out on my stream at 7 p.m. on Tuesday. It's gonna get lit.
Let's go, guys. Yes.
Yeah, gonna be lit. Promise you that.
So, wow, I'm just like shocked that in 5 years it's gonna be like boom, boom, boom. You can
I don't,
stream wherever
bro,
you want.
honestly, I don't think that's even going to be part of it. I think what I've just listed there is probably going to be about 30-40%. I think there's way more to come.
That
Way more to come. I really do.
that yeah, that's a great way for people to get started too. I think
Mhm.
like the more platforms and the more avenues is the easier for people to go. And like you said, like the
Yep.
browser streaming, OBS is hard to figure out itself. Like my God,
Yep.
browser streaming to make it
Yep.
that easy to do it.
Yep.
Um, but then people can, listen back to this podcast and be like, oh wow, it's not that easy. Like I
Yep.
really do have to work for it. So,
Yep.
um, so throughout your whole journey, are there any specific mentors, role models, influencers who played a significant role in shaping like your career trajectory, and like how did they impact you, your decisions, your inspirations? Like any shout outs, anything you kind
I
of
don't.
want to go
It'd
deeply
be
on?
hard to just give a couple of names
Yeah, of
because
course,
I gather inspiration from everywhere.
of course.
I know two of the more recent ones are definitely people like Low TV
Mhm.
from 100 Thieves
Yep,
and Lucci TV,
yep,
just from how he transitions so easily and does so well with content. They are part of the big reason that I'm going into more lifestyle stuff and believing in myself more outside of just like news based stuff.
right.
Um, and in terms of friendship, there's loads, man. I'm friends with a lot of different creators who do a lot of great things, and I take a little bit of inspiration from everyone. I'm like, oh, you do this so well. How can I apply this to the Stallion brand? And I'm like,
Right.
oh, she does this great. How do I apply that to Stallion brand? And I'm like, I do all these mixes, and the way that maybe I lay out my room, the way that I present myself on stream, the different goals, and all that kind of stuff, because it's brought in through inspiration of what I see around me, what I know that works, and what things that I've tested out myself. So in terms of names, I don't think it would be fair to kind of like give anyone particular, just because there's so many influential people in our field.
That's
And I
fair.
think as a creator, the quicker you come to accept that and that you can gather inspiration from everybody rather than looking at everyone like, why do they get that and I don't? If you can get out of that mindset, which I very quickly recommend getting out of that mindset, and looking at people being like, okay, how come they're getting that and I'm not? What are
Mm,
they doing so well that it's causing them to get that and I'm not? Rather
mm,
than, can't believe they're getting that, I'm not. It's not fair. Like,
yeah,
get out of that spoiled brat attitude and gather inspiration from these people, because these people don't get there by luck. They get there with a lot of testing, research, and working just as hard as you are,
right.
maybe in a slightly different avenue. So that was one of the, I'd say quite early on, I came across that. Not like necessarily in myself, but I was like, I'm not going to be jealous of other people's success. Like, I'm going to use these successful people and be like, what are they doing to really captivate their audiences? And that's where I feel like I set myself apart early from a lot of people, because I understood the foundations of people like, if to really throw names out, like your Nick Mercs, Ninja.
Yeah,
You know, I was watching Ninja since he competed in Halo 3, right? And then he
yeah,
blew up on Fortnite. He found his niche at the time and he ran with it. Look at him now, right?
right.
And all the other creators that are kind of like them, who understood the market that they were in at the time and just ran with it. So I've gathered inspiration from those micro influencers that might have even 5, 10 viewers, but they have incredible energy and their days are to come, and just kind of mixed it all together. And that's what's caused the Stallion brand to be where it is now. So definitely those specific names, but if I'm going to give a shout out, I'll give a shout out to the Stallion streaming community, the SSC, who have been with me since day one and supported me for every single venture, no matter what I do. So
Love that. Shout out SSG for
yeah.
sure. And the inspiration is a good thing to talk about, because inspiration is different than copying. There's a lot of
Oh yeah.
copying going on in
Yeah.
this world of, hey, this worked, this person did it, so I'm copying the exact same thing this person did, or I'm stealing
Yeah.
their thumbnail, or I'm stealing
That's a
their
quick way to get cancelled.
it's a quick way to get canceled. And I think that's like we talked about early on, the genuine of people can see the genuine of yourself and not
Yeah.
just it's super easy to see behind that. So
Yeah.
um Do you still break dance and do
I'm
dancing
too
on?
old for that stuff now,
Yeah,
man. Like
no,
I
no
did
more.
it at university for fun. I was in the street and breakdance society. Still got the odd moves. I can still like tut and
See, there
wave
you go.
into all that kind of like stuff and whatnot. But kinda, I'm an old man now. But for me, it's more about the gym now,
There you go. Yeah.
which is another thing that I think that gets overshadowed a lot, especially in the gaming world. It's like we're gamers. We're built to be slobs and eat all day and game all day, and that's it. And it's
Mhm.
like. That's good. That's a quick way to the hospital, unfortunately. So
Right.
I this year, for the first ever time, decided to take my health more seriously than it's ever been. I've been working with my personal trainer for around 10 months, and over the last 5 weeks, we moved gym. So rather than him physically teaching us, he
Mm,
gives us the training that we do, and he measures our calories and our training programs. So I mean, we already know how to do the training now. We worked with him for 10 months, right?
yeah.
And just in the last 5 weeks, and in the last week particularly, I've had my biggest drop yet. I started at 80.4 kilos, and 5 weeks later, I'm now at 77.9. So I've dropped 2.5 kilos. My BMI is almost in the green now. Like my stomach, bro, I can't squeeze. There's nothing there.
Right.
I'm putting,
Right.
I'm putting, I'm putting muscle on, and that is from just being strict,
Right.
being like just as I am as a businessman, having like a structure to what I'm doing. And I tell you what, in 5 weeks, I've gone from being what I was, which wasn't bad in any way, but to what I am now. I'm currently the best chef I've ever been in my life, and like going into 2024, I'm gonna step it up. I'm gonna push for areas I've never pushed before. Like growing up, dude, I was always either the fat guy, not a
Yeah.
fat, but I would consider myself as like fat or chunky and have like love
Right.
handles. And now I have that no more. I wear clothes in ways that I've never worn them before, and it's a great feeling. So to gamers and creators out there, for the love of God, please make sure you look after your physical health, because it actually helps you with like brain power and processing power. Because if you let your
Energy.
body, if you let
Yeah.
your body go, your head goes.
Yeah.
Simple. Even
Yep.
if you don't see it straight away. So best thing I ever did, man, working with a personal trainer. It's changed my whole life.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Stallion. I appreciate it. Where can people find you
Mm.
live? Where can they see you? What days are you streaming?
Yeah. So I currently stream on Mondays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays. Mondays, Tuesdays I stream from around 12 until 7. That's UK GMT. And then on Wednesdays around 3 till 9. Subject to change occasionally, obviously because of such a busy life, but around those days, I'm normally streaming on Twitch, Trovo, and TikTok. As of right now, that's due to change very soon.
Of course.
Um, Under the name Stallion for all of that, and then for more like personal stuff, like how I'm posting on Twitter and Instagram, you can find me under Stallion Streams. But yeah, thank you for giving me the opportunity to be here, bro. I appreciate it, and I hope this was a good first return cast for you. So
Yes, absolutely was. Thank you for all of you guys tuning in. This is the return of the Level Up Chronicles, and this is just a start. We got a lot more content coming. So thank you guys for listening. I will see you guys in the next one. This is Schmoogly, and have a good night. Peace.
peace.